There is something about a clown that was always meant to unsettle you. The painted smile that never changes. The eyes that do not match the expression. The way they watch you from across a crowd, and you cannot tell if they are performing or hunting. Most people pass them by without a second thought. A carnival attraction, a party trick, something meant for children. The people in these stories thought the same thing. 3 accounts, 3 nights. 3 clowns that had no business being where they were. And 3 people who barely made it home. I was 12 years old. Old enough to know when something felt wrong. Old enough to be aware of my surroundings. Still young enough to be exactly the kind of target a certain type of person looks for. We lived in a busy neighborhood, but our block was a dead end, backed against a forest preserve. Through those trees, about a half-mile walk, was a small community park. One Saturday night in late summer, a mini carnival was being held at that park. I had no plans with friends. My mom, the kind of woman who never told her kids to stay inside, suggested I go check it out. So I did. I crossed through the forest with a flashlight, passed through the fence at the edge of the park, and stepped into the light of the carnival. Rides spinning. Concession stands lit up. A Ferris wheel turning slowly against the darkening sky. The smell of popcorn and fried food in the warm air. It was late enough that it was not too crowded. Near the far end of the park stood a large red and white striped circus tent. People were filing in. I walked over and poked my head inside. 4 rows of audience seated on bleachers. A small stage at the front. 3 clowns performing. One rode a small tricycle in tight circles. One juggled. The third danced. Wild, exaggerated, erratic. Then the dancing clown noticed me standing in the entrance. He stopped, turned, and began moving toward me, skipping across the stage, his smile enormous and painted, his eyes fixed directly on mine. He raised one finger, beckoned me forward, toward the stage. I did not move. I turned and walked away. I found a friend at one of the game booths and spent the next half hour with him, laughing, playing, forgetting entirely about what had just happened in that tent. Then the carnival began shutting down. Lights dimming, workers packing up, people filtering toward the exits. I said goodbye and started back toward the woods. I had just reached the fence at the edge of the park when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. The clown. The same one from the tent, standing just a few feet away, still in full costume. Still wearing that smile. He asked, in a voice that was too casual, too friendly, if I wanted to see the backstage area of the circus tent. Said there were things back there that the regular guests were not allowed to see. Special things. Just for me. I said no. And walked into the forest. I moved fast. Kept looking back over my shoulder every few seconds to make sure the path behind me was empty. He had not followed. He was still standing at the fence, just watching, that enormous painted smile never moving. When I was far enough into the trees that he could no longer see me, I started running. The path through the forest was about a half mile. I was 3/4 of the way home. My house was close. The road was just ahead. Then I felt it. That sudden, specific stomach-dropping feeling that tells you something is wrong before your brain can put words to it. I stopped, turned around. The clown stepped out of the darkness and into the beam of my flashlight. Right there in the middle of the forest path, between me and the park. He had followed me through the woods in complete silence, without a flashlight, in the dark. The moment he got close enough, I threw the flashlight directly at him, and I ran. I could hear him behind me. Heavy footsteps on the dirt path, getting closer. Then, the road came into view ahead, and the footsteps stopped. He did not follow me onto the road. I did not look back. I made it home gasping, heart slamming. My mom took one look at me and asked what happened. I told her I had jogged back for exercise. I never told her the truth. To this day, I still think about the way he stood at that fence after I said no. Not angry, not rejected, just still, just smiling. Like he already knew he would find another way. I had been afraid of clowns my whole childhood. By the time I was 14, I had almost convinced myself that fear was irrational, childish, something I had outgrown. One cold Tuesday night in November, my parents were away on vacation. My siblings were all out. My friend, I will call him B, came over, and we decided to walk a few blocks to a small fair that had been set up in a nearby parking lot. We played some games, walked around, ate too much. Everything was easy and ordinary until we rounded a corner and came face to face with a clown. He was not performing, not doing tricks. He just stood there, smiling, bouncing slightly on his heels, making slow, exaggerated gestures with his hands. More mime than clown. Every few seconds, he seemed to be a small step closer than he had been a moment before. We laughed it off. B even reached over and patted him on the shoulder before we walked away. "That was weird," I said. "That was more creepy than weird," B replied. We headed back through the quiet neighborhood toward my house. And that is when we heard the footsteps, behind us, following our pace exactly. We turned. No one. We walked. Footsteps followed. We stopped. Footsteps stopped. This went on for several blocks. Neither of us said much. We just kept walking, kept listening, kept not looking at each other. We reached my house. I fumbled in the dark for my keys. Wrong key again. My hands were not cooperating. B grabbed my arm. Turn around. In the bush at my neighbor's house, a shape, low, crouched, perfectly still. The clown from the fair, watching us. The moment he realized we had seen him, he stood up and began walking toward us. I went through every key on the ring. Wrong. The right one finally turned. We threw ourselves inside, slammed the door, locked it. I called my parents immediately. My father told us to arm ourselves and get upstairs. We ran to my brother's room and looked out the window. The clown was standing in our driveway, looking up at the window, not moving, just standing there in the cold November dark, staring up at us. We dropped below the windowsill. 10 minutes passed. We looked again. He was gone, or at least we thought he was. For all we know, he spent the rest of that night somewhere on the property, in the yard, behind the shed, below the window, waiting. We were inside. We were safe. But that driveway has never felt the same to me since. I was 14 years old and living in a small rural town in South Carolina. Population, 130 people. Everyone knew everyone. You could count the houses on the main road. That summer, I worked at the local lumberyard. My house was exactly 1 mile away, and I walked to and from work every single day. The road between them was empty. No houses, no streetlights. Just trees on both sides, thick vegetation pressing in close, and the sound of crickets and frogs filling the dark. One night, around 9:30, I finished my shift and started walking home, earbuds in, music playing. Halfway along the road, I heard something. A laugh, high-pitched, cackling, coming from somewhere in the trees. I pulled my earbuds out and stood still. Silence, just crickets, just darkness. I told myself it was an animal, some bird I did not recognize. And I kept walking. The next morning, on my way to work, I kicked a rock along the pavement out of habit. It skipped across the road and came to rest next to something in the dirt, something bright red. I walked over. It was a clown nose, round, foam, slightly dirty. I picked it up and squeezed it. It squeaked. I brought it to work, laughed about it with my coworkers, left it on the counter. By the end of the shift, I had forgotten it entirely. That night, I walked home again at 9:30. I had left my earbuds behind. No music this time. Just the road and the dark and the sound of the night. About 150 yards ahead, I saw something in the road. A shape. Dark. Standing still. I assumed it was a deer. As I got closer, it moved off into the trees. I reached the spot where it had been standing. And then, footsteps behind me. Close. I turned. A clown stood in the middle of the road. Dirty costume, colors faded and wrong. Makeup smeared across his face. Eyes rimmed with black grease paint. He tilted his head slowly to one side. And in a soft, almost gentle voice, he said, "Hey there." I took a step back. He smiled wider. "You have something of mine. I need it back." "I don't have anything of yours," I said. He giggled, softly, like something was genuinely funny. "Well, if you don't have my nose," he reached behind his back, "I am going to need yours." He brought the machete forward, long, rusted, catching the moonlight. I ran harder than I have ever run in my life. Behind me, his bare feet slapping the pavement, the sound of metal scraping across asphalt, and that giggle. He was laughing while he chased me. My lungs were on fire. The road ahead went uphill and I could feel my legs giving out beneath me. Every step felt slower than the last. And then, light. Headlights cresting the top of the hill ahead of me. A truck. I ran straight at it, waving both arms above my head. It stopped. I looked behind me. The road was empty. No clown, no footsteps, no giggling. Just the dark and the trees and the sound of my own breathing. The driver called the police. They searched the road and the surrounding woods. No parked cars. No camp. No sign of anyone. Nothing. I have never walked that road again. I do not know where he came from. I do not know how long he had been watching me on those evening walks. I do not know why he chose that night, but I know what he said. And I know what he was holding when he said it. 3 clowns. 3 ordinary nights that should have been completely forgettable. A carnival at the edge of the woods. A fair in a parking lot a few blocks from home. A mile-long road through the dark. None of those things should have been dangerous. The smile is the part that stays with you, not the chase, not the weapon, not the footsteps in the dark, the smile. Because a smile is supposed to mean something safe, something welcoming, something that means you are not in danger. And that is exactly why they wear it. The next time you see a clown standing just a little too still, looking at you from just a little too far away, and smiling in a way that does not quite reach the eyes, trust what you feel, walk away, and do not look back. If those stories made something crawl up the back of your neck tonight, you are not alone. These are real accounts from real people. A 12-year-old running through dark woods. 2 teenagers crouched below a window watching a clown stand in the driveway. A boy on an empty road with nothing between him and a machete but his own legs. Real moments, real fear. And there are so many more. If you want to keep hearing them, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second. And it lets me know you want more. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a new story. Every week, new accounts, new places, new things that happen to real people in the dark. The kind of stories you will still be thinking about when you close your eyes tonight. And down in the comments, tell me which of these 3 stories scared you the most. Was it the clown who followed a 12-year-old silently through a dark forest? Was it the one standing in the driveway, looking up at the window in the cold November night? Or was it the giggling on the road and the machete and the question of how long he had been waiting? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment. And if you have your own story, a clown, a carnival, a moment on a dark road that never made sense, something that happened to you that you have never been able to fully explain, tell me. Because the most terrifying stories in the world are the ones that actually happened. Stay safe out there. Stay in the light. And if someone in face paint asks you to follow them somewhere the guests are not allowed to go, say no and run.